Welcome back. As we promised in our second segment, we are going to speak about one of the most beautiful tombs we have in Luxor, the tomb of Ramses I, after its renovation and its restoration. We are going to speak about this pharaoh, who is Ramses I, what the importance of his tomb, and what are the most important activities he practiced, the relics he made, the relics he left. And to shed a light on this, we are very much delighted to have with us by phone our historian and our expert in pharaonic heritage and pharaonic civilization, Mr. Ihab Kamel. A very good morning to you, sir, and a Happy New Year.
Good morning to you and Happy New Year to all.
Sir, as I said, we are speaking about this tomb, the tomb of Ramses I after its renovation. Tell us more about who is Ramses I and what's his importance and about the dynasty he was born and lived in.
Well, Ramses I is considered to be the founder of the 19th dynasty. He is the father of King Seti I and the grandfather of the great pharaoh Ramses II. Actually, Ramses the first is considered to be his period was the beginning of a great historical period. Originally, he was an officer in the army. His real name was P. Ramses, and he succeeded King Horemheb, the last king of the 18th dynasty, ruling the country after a disturbed period, the period of Akhenaten, and it was an important period, although it was short for the stability of the country. Actually, he re-established the situation in Egypt and continued what King Horemheb had started, although he had ruled for a short time, only 2 or 3 years, because he was considered to be an old man by the standards of that age. Actually, this period, that's why historians call it the period of the army generals, because originally he was an army general. Actually, his tomb is incomplete because he did not rule for long, and yet the burial chamber, which is the only completed part of his tomb, is one of the most beautiful burial chambers in the Valley of the Kings, with its vivid colors, it's really one of the very beautiful ones.
Sir, are you saying that his tomb was discovered intact?
No, his tomb was not discovered intact. Actually, his tomb, like most of the tombs of the Valley of the Kings, it was discovered wrong.
Yeah.
But it was discovered by Giovanni Belzoni, the Italian explorer.
Archaeologist?
Yes, and he discovered also the tomb of Seti I, which is located above the tomb of Ramses I, which is the most beautiful tomb ever made in the Valley of the Kings. As a matter of fact, Giovanni Belzoni, he didn't only discover these 2 tombs, but he discovered several other tombs in the Valley of the Kings. Actually, this tomb was discovered in the 19th century. And in those days, they used to work in a very primitive way, especially that the tombs were totally lost. They were covered with rubble and debris. And he was hoping, Giovanni Belzoni, to find an intact tomb. Unfortunately, he didn't. And we have to to understand that in those days, the Rosetta Stone was still under studying, and they did not know actually that it was the tomb of Ramses I until the Rosetta Stone was completely deciphered and we had started building our knowledge about the ancient Egyptian language.
Yeah.
Actually, this tomb is considered to be, as I said, one of the very beautiful tombs in the Valley of the Kings, and it's considered to be also one of the biggest. It's a huge tomb.
This was my coming question, sir. What's very distinguished about this tomb, and why it's significant? And after its restoration or its renovation, what's its position among others? I mean, in the Valley of the Kings, we do have tens of tombs. Why this is an important one or a distinguished one among others?
Simply because it has the most beautiful burial chamber. If this tomb was completed like the other tombs of Seti I or Ramses VI or Ramses III even, this would have been the most beautiful tombs. You go inside the burial chamber, it's beautifully colored. The colors are so vivid. And it's the beginning of a new style of tombs, which is the style of representing all the Egyptian deities in full pictures, not more like sketches anymore, like the tombs of the 18th dynasty's kings. And this was the beginning of having completely painted tombs with such a style like the tomb of Seti I.
Yeah.
It's considered to be a transition between both periods tombs. The tombs of the 19th dynasty, they are decorated with colored reliefs.
Well, this is the first time to use colors. I mean, the 19th dynasty pharaohs, or the tombs of the 19th dynasty pharaohs, were the very first tombs to be colored.
No, all the tombs were colored. The difference were in the drawings.
Yeah.
The drawings of the earlier tombs were more like sketches, like pictograms, not fully drawn figures. But the tombs of the 19th dynasties were actually reliefs, complete reliefs, fully detailed. The tomb of Ramses I, it's in between. It's fully drawn pictures, and this represents the transition from the old style of the 18th dynasty to the new style of the 19th dynasty's tombs that were decorated with fully painted reliefs, because it had full paintings.
Yeah. Sir, this was my another question I have regarding the walls of this tomb. I mean, what kind of information we knew from the walls of the tomb, narrating the history or the life of the pharaoh of Ramses I, or something else?
Well, the tomb itself, it shows that Ramses I did not rule for a long time.
Yeah.
Because if he had ruled for a long time, the tomb would have been completed. Mm-hmm. But actually, he didn't. And it indicates as well that this person or this king was an old man when he ruled. Mm-hmm. So it's an indication as well that the country was beginning to get stabilized from the quality of the art that we can see. Because as you know, the artisans, they were a community on their own, and they were paid by the national treasury. Mm-hmm. So this quality of art indicates that those people's lives were stable, they were regularly paid, and this shows from the quality of art that was in the tomb, and actually this is a sign of stability. Yes. In ancient Egypt.
Mm-hmm. Well, Mr. Ihab Kamel, our historian, thank you very much for your input, sir. Have a very good day, and once again, Happy New Year. And by this, we come to the end of this episode of our breakfast show today. Tomorrow is another day with another crew. You were in the company of my dear colleague Amal Mukhtar and myself, Nermeen Abdurrahman. Many thanks for watching.